Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Jen Thompson, the CEO of the Australian Gas Industry Trust. I sit in Brisbane, where it is hot and steamy. This is our first Lunchbox session for 2023. So welcome. We do aim to have these on a monthly basis, mostly this time of the month. So I think it's like the second or third Tuesday of the month. Today we have Jakes Jacobs from ESQ, which stands for Energy Skills Queensland. Jakes led the research project around exploring the skills gap between those currently working in the LNG, CSG industry and the hydrogen sector. There's been a lot of interest in this report. It's been disseminated globally. That's how much interest there's been. This information supports decision-making around bridging courses, training and development support, and making sure that organisations are recruiting the right people with the right skills. Just moving on to a little bit of admin, if everybody could make sure that their microphones are on mute, that would be very handy. You'll also see that we are recording this session because at the end of the day, I will put it up on our Adjet YouTube channel. You'll also find all our Lunchbox sessions up there and other things. The report itself will also go up at the end of the day on the Adjet webpage. You just need to slide down to the bottom where you'll find all our research reports there. But if you need it now, like as in when we come out of this Lunchbox session, it's already up on our LinkedIn page. Our next Lunchbox session is in April, 11th of April off the top of my head. It's with econometrics person called Nick Behrens. He has done a research report into the R&D trends, gas industry research and development trends over the last 20 years and what it means for the gas industry. So I will start to advertise that one in a few weeks. But without further ado, I am handing it over to you, Jakes. Thanks, Jakes, all yours.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks for that introduction. Can I just start by saying, can everybody hear and see me clearly? All good? All right, thanks. Well, what a turnout. Thanks, Jane. So many faces. I do recognize a couple of them. It's great to see that you all wanted to come and attend this Lunchbox session. Well, I have to admit, this is my first ever Lunchbox session, so I'm not exactly sure what the protocol is with Lunchbox, but when I hear lunch, I hear eating, so I don't want to stand between you and your lunch, so if you want to tuck away, please do. I promise I won't be eating whilst presenting. That won't be a good look. And also, if you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat or raise your hand and ask at any time. I'm going to try and keep it as informal as possible. I'm just going to quickly share a small PowerPoint. Is that visible to everybody?
Yep, all good.
All good, all right. So obviously the aim of today's session is to tell you about the research which Jen alluded about. We'll go through some of the methodology, the findings and recommendations, basically just to tell you the method in our madness. I first want to also thank Jen and her team at Australian Gas Industry Trust for their support in getting this research off and up and running. They commissioned the report, so thanks for that, Jen. A couple of notes that I should tell you about the report, and everything you hear here today is the report is very much indicative. It's not definitive. So everything that we did and everything in the report, the research is pretty much designed to provide guidance to industry. So it's not instructional. Please don't see it as that. We deliberately use words like recommendations for that reason. So we did try our best to make it as accurate as we can at the time. But as we know, in this kind of industry, things move along. So just see it in that light as well. Also, the report is actually quite short, and I think that's part of the value of the report. There's a lot of information which you can gain quite quickly, and as we go through that, you'll see that. There's a lot of reports out there which is pretty good, very comprehensive, but it takes a lot of time to read through 100 pages of reports these days, and time is not something which we all have. Lastly, I want to thank the working group. I established a small working group with some very great experts in the field of gas. So Michael from ATCO and Ashley from Gemini and Jason from Enertrain. A big thanks to them. They are the real experts. I'm not the expert. They are the real experts, and without their input, none of this would have happened. So big kudos to those guys as well. I want to start with a bit of a sports analogy. Now, if you're in these sessions and you read the reports and you come to these webinars, I'm sure you've heard the term skills race before. And we are definitely in a skills race because every industry out there is looking for the best talent and the best qualified workforce for their particular project, for their development, for their state, for their country. Now, the difference between a skills race and a conventional race is that in a conventional race, everybody is behind the starting line, and the starter makes sure that nobody's toes or fingers touches the starting line, and the pistol goes off and they race to the finishing line. In a skills race, the rules are a bit different. Actually, it's a lot different. We can cheat a bit. Actually, we can cheat a lot. Actually, it's not even cheating. It's just using the advantages we have. And that big advantage is that we have a very skilled, experienced, and knowledgeable established gas workforce. Now, to get to the end point, why would we start at the beginning line along everybody else when we can start at the 70-meter line, for instance, and use that to our advantage? Now, that formed the basis of this research, is how do we use our established gas workforce, use those existing skills, but just find out where we're starting from, where we're ending, and what are the pathways to our end. And that's essentially the basis of the research and the report itself. So I'll get back to that analogy a little bit later. I just want to go to the second slide before I get too carried away to tell you about who we are and what we do. So Energy Skills Queensland, that's our biggest and most well-known brand, but we do operate on several other brands as well. Most notably Hydrogen Skills Australia, also Skill Pass, which you'll hear a bit later what that platform provides. Essentially, we're looking at those industry sectors under those bullet points, focus on electrotechnology, electricity supply, telecommunications, oil and gas, and resources. And where we position ourselves as an organisation is right between industry, government, and training. Those two-way communications to industry is quite important because industry tells us what they need in terms of the workforce and the skills. Government is important because they provide direction, policy, and funding, and training as well because of they implement the training packages essentially. So what we are is we are a non-for-profit industry association. We're not an RTO. Our goal is to ensure a strong, safe, and sustainable energy sector. And at the bottom of that slide is just a couple of examples of the research that we do. We do a lot of research amongst other things. And this was just another example of what we do. So let me get to the project itself and the outcome and the scope and the stages. So the outcome of the research was to identify the accredited gap training solutions available to the gas industry to expand their job roles in support of the synergies between natural gas and the hydrogen sectors. So a couple of keywords to take away there is it was accredited gap training solutions that we looked at only. I'll speak more about that under that relevant stage. The gas industry was our scope and the support of the synergies between the natural gas and hydrogen sectors. Now, we already knew that there would be synergies. And there were a couple of percentage of overlap floating around in the last couple of years. People said, well, there's between 85% up to 95% overlap of gas skills and hydrogen skills. Not sure how they derived at those particular percentages, but in any case, we use those synergies and we pretty much did a bit more detailed analysis in this research. So we primarily focus on the current CSG LNG industry and what they need to be upskilled in to operate safely and securely and effectively in the hydrogen sector. So essentially, we had 6 stages that we completed. Stage 1 was essentially a job role collation. So what that was, it was just a big desktop analysis of what is out there in terms of the research that's already been done in terms of what the hydrogen sector is going to need, which job roles are going to be required. There were a couple of reports already published. We were waiting for the PwC report to be released by that stage. This was, I think, August, July, August last year, Jim. There was a bit of a delay in that to be released. I think it was only eventually released late last year or the beginning of this year. Eventually, Jen told me, Jake, just get on with it. And because she's very strict and I'm very scared of her, we just bit the bullet and we got on with it. We used reports from what was helpful was the Swinburne hydrogen roadmap. There were reports from Department of Employment, Small Business and Training. Job Queensland had a couple of reports that we were using. There were one from Cavendish and some of the previous work that we've done. So essentially, we compiled all of those job reports or job roles into one big matrix, and we ended up with 102 job roles in a big matrix. So in the next stage, we decided, well, we've got to sort this mess a bit out. So we put them into categories. So essentially, the categories were the supply and the value chains, and as they look very familiar, and I'll show them to you in a moment. So it's like the engineering, the processing, the export. Importantly, what we've also included and we focused a lot on was the managerial, the executive, the so-called white-collar roles. These were very important, and in our initial research that we did in 2019, feedback from the experts was, Jake, this is as important as the technical staff, because without our financial managers, our legal experts, our work health and safety experts, the industry itself will not grow, it will not be sustained. So we focus a lot on those white-collar roles as well. Stage 3 was the identification of the currently available qualifications, skill sets, units of competence, and accredited courses. Basically, it's just a bit of a desktop research of what is out there that would be serving as pathways for the gas workforce to be upskilled. And the focus there is just on accredited training. We did not include any micro-credentials or other courses. We ourselves are involved in the development of micro-credentials, other courses, but for the scope of this project, we stuck to the accredited programs. Stage 4, this is actually very interesting. This is where the working group came up with the great idea of coding each of those job roles in the matrix, and I'll show you what that looks like. And essentially, those codings indicates the level of synergy between existing job role and what is going to be required for them to be upskilled into the hydrogen environment. So we ended up with a traffic light system. So you'll see there's green roles and orange roles and red roles, and it's very clever, I think. In stage 5, we looked at the current qualifications and licensing of those identified job roles. Obviously, it would be very difficult for us to go to all those job roles. So what we did is we consulted our SkillPass database. And if you're not familiar with SkillPass, it is our training competency and management system where we have over 41,000 gas worker profiles recorded on. And we looked at the current qualifications and skills and licenses and tickets for those particular job roles. So we just combined those for each one on the matrix. And lastly, in stage 6, we did the recommended bridging training for every job role in the matrix. So looking at what are the current qualifications and skills, and then what is the recommended bridging training to move them forward into the hydrogen sector. So just for the next slide, those are the particular categories. And as you can see, it's very familiar to some of those research report, production, generation, processing, engineering, fabrication, storage, distribution, transport, installation, export, and then finally that big one, which is the white collar roles. So that also just makes it easier to find a particular job role on the matrix. Now, I mentioned the color codes and then on the matrix, and on this particular slide, there's a snippet at the bottom right. So please don't squint your eyes trying to read that. I'll share the report in a moment so you can see it clearly. I just wanted to give you a bit of a background about what the roles mean. So the green roles are roles currently being performed by gas workers and will, with only minor contextualized training, be performed in the hydrogen sector. And when we say minor contextualized training, that refers to the basic hydrogen safety skill set. Orange roles are roles currently being performed by gas workers and will require contextualized training plus some additional specialized training. Depending on what type of operational area they operate in, that additional training I'll show you in a while in the report how that is identified. The red roles are roles that are not currently being performed by gas workers and will require hydrogen-specific training or other specialized training. So those are roles that have not been created yet, like a fuel cell retrofit fitter or something. It's not existing in the gas industry, or it could refer to a role that is currently being performed but outside of the gas industry. So it's not within the gas industry. So for this sake of this report, we focus mainly on the green and the orange roles because that is within the scope. So I'm going to quickly unshare this whilst I load the report up. And whilst I'm spending 30 minutes or 30 seconds to do that, it gives you time to pop up a question if you wish.
I've got a comment.
Tell us what you're having for lunch or whatever.
And Jakes and everybody, I just put your code for those 3 types of roles in chat so that everybody can refer back if they need.
Thanks, Jen. All right, so hopefully you can see that. That is what we ended up with in terms of the matrix. So 102 job roles in there, 53 of those green, 18 orange, and 31 red. So 71 out of the 102 job roles are common within gas and the hydrogen sector and just need some upskilling. So that's why I said if you're in the skills race and you start at the 70-meter line, it's a huge advantage. No need to go back to the starting line where everybody else is. So just as an example, you're looking for a particular job role, look for instance, a gas fitter. Yeah, that will be under installation. So third from the right, from the top, there it is. It's a green role. So my gas fitters would require upskilling in terms of a safety skill set. Another example, for instance, if I'm looking at process plant technicians or operators, that will be in the processing. There it is. It's an orange role. So they'll do this safety skill set plus some additional training based upon their areas of expertise. So that's how you can quickly find a job role within this matrix and have a very quick indication of what level of synergy there is between their current skills and what they're going to require for a hydrogen workforce. Just to go down, I'm not going to do every one of them. There's just, again, the green roles. And essentially, this is the code, the basic hydrogen safety skill set. According to TGA, there are those 5 registered training organizations that are approved to deliver that. So it's just a matter of going to TJ, find your RTO nearest in your region and engaging with them to provide the training. These are the units of competence within those within that skill set. Orange roles a bit more complicated because they've got that additional training, so they've got to do the safety skill set. Not got to, but it's recommended they do the safety skill set. And then depending on the operational area, and the operational area could be installation, storing, handling, systems integration, or it could be transport and distribution. So we looked at all the current qualifications and units of competence that would relate to those particular areas. Again, this is not a finite list. There might be others in there. We did the best we could at the time. But we also imported units of competence from other packages. So, for instance, transport and logistics, where it's applicable, even public safety as well, and energy, electricity supply. So it's a matter of finding which ones are relatable to your particular job role that you want to analyze. Red roles, as I said, out of scope. But what we did then at the end of the report is we took every single job role on that matrix and we did an in-depth analysis of it. And that is basically this last table in the report. This is just an example, so I don't think, take this as a true. But for instance, there would be a job role and what are the current qualifications, licenses and tickets recorded against that job role in SkillPass. And then what are the recommended bridging training? So for this particular job role, it would be hydrogen safety skill set. And because I operate in that area, these extra units of competence would be required. So similarly, for all of the other job roles, I can go down this list, but I'm sure you get the gist of it. Gas plant operators, these are the qualifications and tickets and licenses currently registered for that particular job role on SkillPass. And these are all the recommended skill sets and units of competence for that particular job role. Bear in mind also that it might be that within your industry, in your organization, or your plants, that many of the workers might have this already. And if they do, happy days. RPL, that just means that our starting line shifts a bit more to the finishing line. And it's just an added extra advantage. I don't think I've left anything else. In a nutshell, that is what the research report is, and this is the findings that we came to. I hope you found it interesting. As I mentioned a couple of times, it's a working document. It's always evolving. Use it as a guide, adapt it, add to it or subtract to it in your particular areas and how you see fit. Happy to answer any questions or comments that you have. Thanks for listening.
Okay, everybody, the floor is open. Are there any questions? I think there's one. There's one in the chat. So hang on. From Brendan Fernandez. The roles marked orange and red. Does the report include what are the existing roles that could potentially transition into these roles?
Those
yes,
roles,
yes, it does. On the last table that you showed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
like I said, we particularly the work group provided that information as to what roles are currently actually operating in the gas industry. Like I said, the red roles is probably the ones that will be transitioning eventually. Those roles might be imported at some stage. It's just not at the moment. It's not there.
I've got a question. Jakes, can you please pull up the matrix again with the colour?
Sure.
There were two colours of orange. Was that on purpose?
No, that's just a printing.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. Should I put it up again? Sorry, let me just go back to that. Oh.
Yeah, see how there's like an...
Yeah. Now, for all purposes, just consider red. It's a traffic light. So, yeah, red, green, red, green, orange, and red. That's all it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the yellowy orange is really orange.
Yes.
Okay. No worries. Okay, we've got a question from Donna McDowell. Hi, Jen and Jenks. Thanks for the present. So some of these qualifications need to be updated to include hydrogen specs, question mark.
If those specs are available at the time when we did the research, we included everything we could find at the time. Like I said, updated as you see fit, because new information will become available mostly weekly. Yes.
Yeah. Folks, are there any other questions?
Stunned silence.
That's not a bad thing. Okay, so that's fabulous. And everybody has more than half an hour up their sleeve given back. Jakes, thank you so much. Everybody online, thank you so much. I really hope that you got a lot out of this. It's an important piece of work for us to get our heads around as the gas industry. And Jakes and ESQ, you guys knocked this one out of the park. It was exactly what I was looking for. And the reason this came about is because I think it was David, your CEO. He actually, I met with him and he told me this story of a guy who was mowing he was mowing the lawn around a hydrogen tank, and he kept banging it with the mower. And so it was like, yikes, let's actually have a look at the skills needed so that everybody can understand what skills are needed in the hydrogen sector, so that we can have everybody working off the same page. Folks, thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
If you've got any questions, come back to me.
Yeah, you can put my contact details out to everybody. If anybody wants to contact me afterwards about anything, this or about ESQ, you're happy to.
Lovely. Thanks, Jakes. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Jakes, can you stay on for a minute?